Good morning, and welcome to the first episode of this month, April 6th, of Ask Elly Intuitive Insights and Your Questions Answered. Today, April 6th, we are going to be talking about UFOs and other magical things that are going on. But first, before I begin, I'd like to introduce myself and welcome all of those people who are here and today on the podcast. So, my name is Elly Molina. I am an intuitive, a psychic. I am the author of a few books and the host of this podcast. And I'm also the creator and founder of the Psy Kids Academy, a magical place for children and adults to tap into their inner magic and learn to develop and access their natural psychic abilities. So if you want to learn more about the Psy Kids Academy, head on over to my website, which is www.ellymolina.com, and check out my offerings, my readings, and the Psy Kids Academy. Magical place for you and your children to start developing or enhancing and really getting great at practicing your psychic abilities. Well, before we begin, I just want to touch upon some of the astrological happenings of this week. I'm going to do them briefly because there is an entire, I'm just going to do this briefly because there is an entire podcast dedicated to this about a week ago. And you can go back and check that. It's the planetary happenings for for April and the Earth energy. So that's on one of the former podcasts, and you can just go back and check that. The biggest event that is happening this coming week is that we have the Jupiter conjunct Neptune in Pisces on April 12th. This is a major event in 2022. This happens every 13 years that these two planets come together magically. And this is where the sky and beyond the galaxies are the limit. So there's no limit to this. Do things, put things into motion that you don't even believe are possible. That is my advice to you on this day. If you have dreams, set them down in writing, come back and keep looking at them and get out of the matrix of what you believe is possible. And so, speaking of matrices and what you believe in is possible, I'm so honored and happy to have as my guest today the lovely Jess Rogge from the Rogge Report and Escape the Simulation. So, Jess is a podcaster, she's a show host. And she's also, in my book, a ufologist specialist. She co hosted a ufology symposium with a group of women. And please check out her podcast, which is going to be attached to all of the information at the end of the end of when I post this and on the YouTube channel. So you'll have all the links to her bio and all the links to all the information. And Jess, you're there, aren't you? Can you hear
I
me?
am. Can you hear me,
Hi.
Elly?
I can. Good. Hi, good morning. So listen, everybody who's joining us live, thank you all for being here. I've woken her up very early so that she could join
Yes.
us live. She's on another coast. And so we're both having our coffee, only I've been up for hours and I don't know about you, Jess, but just welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, I did not go into a huge bio. I would rather have people go find you and look at what you do and share what you know. I'd rather have you share what you do right now as opposed to me over here reading all this stuff. So, welcome, welcome. And tell our listeners today, before we dive a little bit deeper into some of the questions that we've gotten, tell our listeners how you started, where this began, what inspired you. Give us the juicy details.
Yeah. Well, Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show, Ellie. I had you on back in February and I had a fantastic time and we had such a wonderful conversation. But for me, I guess there's always like two parts to this question because part of it is how did you get into this realm of like the unknown? And then the other part is how did you become a host? And why
Hmm.
did you start doing it this way? So it's a two-part question. I think as far as, the unexplained, getting into these topics like this, I've always had an interest in the unknown, the strange, the weird, UFOs and the paranormal when I was young. I think I really got into that area of everything because I'm a sensitive.
Hmm.
So it's something that just has always been in my life. I always sensed energies and things like that. So from a young age, I was very curious about these things, and when I was growing up, we didn't have internet to look up things, so I had to. So really, like my first entry into like everything is I watched a television psychic. You may or may not have heard of her, but like the whole thing kind of started with watching stuff about Sylvia Brown when I
Hmm.
was a kid.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yes. And so I got super into Sylvia. I got every book of hers I could, just to learn more because this information really wasn't out there before.
Yeah.
And I think as it moved forward, I kind of got it just, I got bored with looking into those types of things and I went hard into UFOs because I was like, what's interesting about UFOs is that the government has been researching them. And that's kind of was my. mm, that was my thesis for a long time, was kind of looking into the governmental parts of everything. But now I'm kind of done with that and I'm moving back into the strange. Now,
Mm.
to to kind of talk about podcasting and broadcasting, I and I'm sorry if I'm rambling. This is really
Oh
early for me,
no.
guys.
Oh
My
no, no, no,
brain is
no.
not usually.
No, and here's the thing: none of these questions are scripted. So, also, I don't, well, like, just please ramble on because I'm finding this fascinating, and I'm sure everybody else on here is as well. Because just can I interject here? Many people who
Please.
listen, most people who listen to these podcasts, your work, my work, we've all had these experiences, and
Yes.
we're in the other realm. And then what do we do? Who's our tribe? Where do we connect? So that's why
Yes.
if you want to share a little bit about the podcast, because then people can find you. Also, people who are with me can go hear you, vice versa, and get into their tribe and into that feeling of belonging, and that we're not all alone and weird out here in this world.
Right. Oh, thank you, Ellie. Yeah, what I would say about that is I probably kind of started this journey because I was seeking out to be able to talk to others and find others. So I kind of took that leap. Well, I guess let me go back a moment too. I did go to school for broadcast journalism and film production, so that's my background. I really wanted to do something in this field. But which is funny is I kind of put it to the side for a while, and I got very into listening to things like Coast to Coast and Fade to Black and things like that because I was looking for more information. And as I was listening to those shows, just trying to learn, I said, this is I have a background in this.
Mm.
It's probably something I could do. I could marry these two subjects and be able to produce something that I love. And that's kind of what I did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Long
Can I?
story short.
I got to interrupt because this is a perfect opportunity for me to give a Justine Musk. She was the former wife of Elon Musk, and
Ah.
she had a quote that said, "You take two ideas." And you let them have sex, and they make a new idea, baby. And that is exactly, basically, what most people do when they come up with their ideas. They take two different things that are not really so different, mix them together, and create a baby. So this is.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I made this baby and now I'm in love with like producing a show. I'm in love with talking about these topics. I feel like with every episode with every guest, learn something little new,
Hmm.
expand, my horizons a little more. And I think that's like my favorite part of doing a show.
Hmm. And I have to just, I'm sorry, I'm drinking coffee, everybody. So
No, me
if
too.
you're, you go grab your cups also, people. One of the things that I love about your show is that you always have these very interesting and amazing guests. And there's
Oh,
always
thank you.
something to, like I said, there's always something to learn from being, from listening to your show. So again, it's www, it's escape the simulation info, and you're on YouTube and probably tons of other platforms, but I use YouTube as, one of the places that I go to.
I know YouTube is great for that. I'm also on all podcast platforms too.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, it's just one of my favorite things is just, and I really appreciate that you said you learned something, because that's my whole goal is just, you know, I think about, I'm making this show and I think about myself about 10, 12, 15 years ago. And I think about that person who is looking for information, that person who wants to know more and kind of just needs like that little window that opens it and says, okay, now you can go down this rabbit hole, or this shows you something new. And so I'm happy
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm happy that you get that from my show.
yeah. Awesome. I do. I want to switch gears a little bit. Okay, Jess, if that's all
Please.
right. I want to talk
Totally
about
fine.
UFOs. So like, but let me just start this out with, I gotta say, I am not the expert. I am far from the expert on UFOs. I'm gonna actually do a confession here. You've heard it here.
Okay.
My close friends know this. I have always been a little bit frightened. And so when I share with my friends, I've always been frightened about UFO experiences. So my friend said to me, maybe you've had experiences with them and you don't know. And I said, well, if I have had experiences with them, I don't know. And there's
Hmm.
something there that frightens me. And even with all my knowledge about the psychic realm, that is one area that I have never gone down that path. Okay. And for
Mm.
whatever reason, I haven't explored it. Now, I do want to do a little backstory before I start talking to you about details on all of this. And we do have questions from listeners and people calling
Oh.
in. But before I get there, when I lived in Washington, so most people who know me personally know that I lived in Washington State for close to 13 years. Now, I lived up near Fort Lewis, which is the major Air Force base up in Washington, military facility, really big space. I also lived so far remote up near Mount Rainier that
Mm.
it was known by the locals that there were a lot of UFO sightings. And so, again, I also lived in an airspace that was off limits to any commercial. The only flights allowed in that airspace were military flights. So nobody could come in and fly around unless you were military. And that went for small private planes also. They were not allowed to fly over the area where I lived. So anyway, fast forward in this story. One night, it was in February. It lasted for 3 nights. It was actually, I wrote down the day. It was February 10th, 11th, and 12th. And I was in my bedroom and it was a clear sky. And I looked out the window, and there, hovering not too far from the window, were uh, three things. Okay.
Yes.
And they were just hovering, and they had lights flashing, and then they disappeared horizontally, fast, just immediately, just horizontally disappeared, vanished. And it happened at 10 p.m. And I was totally freaked out. And I called my sons to come, to talk about this stuff. And two of my sons came at that time. I called them in while I was watching this. They came, they watched. All right. We were all, and then the second night, it happened again, same time, same place. For 3 nights, I called my sons. We watched these things disappear, flash, and then disappear. I was frightened, as I cannot tell you how frightened I was. My older son said to me, Mom, that's just military. They've got some fancy things that are like 20, 30 years ahead of our time. Don't, don't trouble yourself thinking about this. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like, I don't know. Anyway, and I shared that with some people that I know that were local up where I lived, and they had seen these things also. There's even a couple of ranches not very far from the area where people do go up for UFO sightings. So anyway, with that being said, that's my part of my UFO experience. And then I've also heard another theory that we see UFOs because it's in our brain, it's our reticular activating system, and we want
Mm.
to see them. And um, so I put question marks after that. Okay, and I turn it over to you now.
There's several different. The thing with UFOs is there's so many different theories. Like you're saying, there's the military theory, right? That these craft belong to the military. Then, and you also bring up the fact that, like, okay, so there's a theory too that there are these things that that we perceive as UFOs, or that's how our brain interprets it. One,
Hmm.
because they say, like, back in the 1800s, right, people saw airships. And then towards the turn of the century, once we get into the 40s, we start seeing flying saucers. And then we move into the
Hmm.
80s, and they're a little more high tech. And now people are seeing tic tacs. So part of the UFO thing is, are we perceiving what it really looks like? Or is that how our brain is interpreting what we're seeing?
Hmm. Hmm.
There's that. And then there's also, like, is this an object coming in from a different dimension that we are able to see at a certain moment? Another one is, do people only see UFOs if it matches their vibration?
Hmm.
Why some people see them and why some people don't.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there are tons of theories on what it could be, or what it could be an alien, we don't
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
two, you talk about the fear, and they do say that a lot of people who have fear surrounding UFOs or aliens most likely have been abducted. Two, one thing I would ask you too is, has anybody in your family had any experiences with UFOs? Because a lot of the times it goes through bloodlines.
I couldn't tell you. It was a topic we never spoke about. But when you just said that, my body got chills. Okay.
Ooh,
So,
uh-oh, uh-oh.
all right.
Well,
Interesting. Hmm.
I could tell you a story. See, my sister is an abductee. My mother is an experiencer. But guess what? Not me.
Hmm.
Not me. So I don't know about the bloodline thing. Some people, yes, or maybe I'm like you. Maybe I've had experiences and I don't remember.
Yeah, yeah, it's possible. It's really possible. Jess, can we answer a question over here? I don't.
Sure.
Look, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we have some questions coming in, so we'll do our best to answer them together. Thomas over here has asked, didn't Trump declassify the information of the UFOs?
He didn't declassify. What they did was they added the UAP task force to the COVID relief bill. But what that's led to is the establishment of an office in the Pentagon that is going to officially view and record this data and look at it. But this is only. I know they are going back and they're looking at old stuff too, but it's really looking at all the newer stuff that's coming in and more recent reports. So, not declassified in the sense that we really are able to see it. There have been FOIA requests put in, things like that, but nothing has really been declassified. When they did the UAP task force report that was released last June, I believe there were 115 sightings that they talked about, and I think most of them, like the major majority of them, were unidentified. I think they were only able to identify like a very small number. So we're not quite to declassified UFO information yet. It's all
Hmm.
very heavily redacted, anything that comes out.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, just amazing. Listen, I've got somebody here. I'd like to bring him on to the podcast. Um, William, If you can hit one of those buttons where it says call in, then we can get you on live. And rather than me reading your question, perhaps you can just ask us directly. Will that work for you? Are you in a space where you can just hit your button and call in? All right, you need to have a headset. That's number one. And then there is a microphone on the app, and then you would just click it. Isn't that what's going on? Is that's how it worked for you, right, Jess?
Mhm, mhm.
All right.
I
Okay.
just clicked and it connected.
Okay. I'm going to give him a moment to see if he can do that, or else if you can type in something to just acknowledge that you're here and listening. We got people saying hello to you. I love this. I
Yeah.
love this. All right. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to read his question until I
Okay.
hear, in the meantime, until we hear from him. So let's start with that. So he, and I'm just going to say your name because you're here and you're live, and I hope that you're okay with that. Will record. He heard me on Coast to Coast, and
Yay.
yeah, that was a whole other experience.
Congratulations. That was awesome.
No, thank you, thank you. That was really quite the doing the read. This is just a tangent. The doing the readings part was unexpected. Okay, I don't know. That just I believe that popped up because I had said I did. I lived at California Psychics. I was a California psychic for many years. So I'm just wondering if that kind of like popped in. Oh, let's get her on the line and answer some questions. It's like,
Probably.
okay. Well, it was good. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Oh,
Um,
it's so
anyway,
awesome.
so I was inundated. This is apologies, Will. I was inundated with emails when you sent it, and I cannot find it. I do not know what happened. Will sent me some footage of UFOs that he recorded, and he writes over here. He has an hour and a half of UFO footage that he's recorded over the 3 days. And then he said that he's been having contact with these beings for the past 14 years. I quote, I feel a direct kinship with them. And he'd like to share his story. Yeah, which I want to get him on the line to share the story. But his question is if I would know who they are, or maybe you, and what is his connection, where are they from, and what dimension? And my purpose on this planet in relationship to them and whatever we feel. So there's multiple in here, multiple questions. Oh, he's here.
Oh,
William,
good.
can you call in? Can you hit the button and call in yourself? Then, even though I've just read the question, but Jess, what do you think? And I really do want to see these videos, William. However, I don't know where I put them in my email box. So what do you think, Jess? What do you think's going on? If he has an hour and a half of footage, live footage.
Yeah, for me, I would love to see that footage. That I know I can't because we don't have it available right now, but I would love to see that footage. What's interesting is, I do get contacted by a lot of people that ask these similar questions.
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't have, what William has, is the footage,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which I find very compelling.
Right.
Um, I would like to. I mean, I would wish we could talk to William because I would like to ask him, like, when did, like, he said it started 14 years
14
ago,
years
which
ago.
is which is also interesting because typically these things happen and they're lifelong. They start from childhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So for it to start in adulthood, for to hear that is very rare, um, from what I
Mm-hmm.
hear. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to ask, William, is there something that occurred 14 years ago that you think that you can think of that might have kicked this off? What I see too a lot is one thing I know, Ellie, that I know, it's like you believe, I know that a lot of people that have these experiences, once they have the experience like William did 14 years ago, that it starts to put you on a path of looking more and kind of a lot of the time, changing people's paradigms and kind of sending them on this spiritual journey. So that's
Yeah.
another question I'd like to ask William. Like, what has changed for you since this happened?
Right,
William,
right, right. Hmm,
click on
yeah.
the thing. Click on the thing, William.
He may not have a headset. That's the other thing. And
Uh,
if you don't have a headset, then you'll have to type in your questions. All right. That's how it works on this app. Unfortunately, one needs a headset. So Jess, this is what I'm getting, and this is like, and now you can
Tell me what
confirm
you're
this.
getting.
What I'm getting is that that okay. So what's showing up for me is that he needs, and William, you may be doing this already, but um, when you go to meditate, and if you're not meditating, start meditating. So go to meditating, and also Dr. Stephen Greer, right?
Yes, Greer.
He's got like this app with great meditations on there to make contact. So I'm going to suggest that you follow maybe his meditations for making contact. And what is that app called? C5 or something? Are you
It's
familiar
called
with that?
yes, it's called CE5. It's Close Encounter 5, which is human initiated contact. But two, I'll say like you can use Greer stuff, but you don't need to.
Okay, so I was just thinking in case somebody wanted to use that because it's already pre-done. But my point
It
is
is.
here, my point is that um, if he can, will, if you can start to really meditate deeply and then create contact with them through meditation, I am getting that not only are you going, oh, this is giving me chills, not only are you
Mm.
going to start seeing them more often, they're going to start to talk to you and they're going to communicate what it is that that I know this sounds kind of like I'm making it up, but this is what I'm seeing. They're going to communicate what it is that they want from you and what it is that you can be doing. And it has something to do with what I'm seeing is to bring light and awareness to the planet, especially during the time. There's a lot of stuff going on this planet right now that is not good for the planet. We know that. That's you don't need to be a genius to figure that out. And what I'm seeing over here is that there is this divine-ish kind of energy around this light. So these are, I don't look, again, I am not an alien expert. I don't know these things. What I'm getting though is that these are light beings, meaning these are like, is there such a thing as good and bad aliens? I don't know if that even exists, but these are these are for the benefit of mankind. These are getting protectors, um, light beings in terms of protecting the planet, protecting humans, and finding a way for Will to connect with them so that he can to escape the simulation of this
Yes,
3D
yes.
realm and start working with the information that they provide for him in who he's talking to, who he's connecting to, and start teaching, and without sounding like you're, excuse the language over here, without sounding like you're, I don't want to, without sounding like you're from another planet yourself. Okay, how's that? Um, but there really is information here. And the other thing that I'm seeing is that, like, I don't know anything about your life, Will. So, what I am getting is that the more that you go into this space of going into connecting with these beings, the deeper the love relationships are. The deeper the love relationships are and will be that are in your life. And now I don't know what that means, but you may. Okay. So, that's what's coming through for me over here right now as I look. This is definitely a good thing, and conversations need to be had in meditation to have direct communication. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, I want to. Typically, if people, I would probably say this same exact thing. When I do talk to people who've had experiences and they want to contact them, I do say the same thing. It's meditation and just waiting for an answer.
And
Yep.
trust, right? And trusting that that answer, sometimes we get these answers, right, Jess? And we think, oh, we're making it up. It's our imagination. But as Einstein said, imagination is more real than the stuff that we're seeing over here. And
Exactly.
And I'm just getting, the deeper you meditate, Will, the more you get into this meditative space, the more connections you're going to have, the more messages you're going to receive. And there's something here with love. So I don't know what this, whether it's you spreading love or whether your love relationship will get deeper, but there's something here with the word is love, like really big, powerful love. So not clear what that, I don't have an answer on that one. Yeah. Can, yes, add something to this because I
Yeah.
just had a question. I just had a question.
Yeah. Do you want to put the question? You want to say the question?
Oh, he's had telepathic communication with them. All right, so that's
Oh,
okay. Too bad we don't him. Too bad we can't get him on the phone right now.
I know. I know.
Yeah. All right.
But
Well.
having downloads, getting telepathic communication, that is very typical of contact with beings.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and many people, many people talk about the telepathic communication because they don't communicate like we do. Whenever you hear people, they say, "I had a feeling," and this is what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
very,
Right.
very, yeah, that's very normal. I know it
Yeah.
sounds weird, but it's very normal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's really cool. I was going to ask you something. Do you, in all your research that you've done, and with all the people that you've connected to, even on your symposium, is there
Mhm.
such a thing as like good aliens and bad aliens? Is that a
I would.
conversation?
I mean, there's at least two schools of thought on it. There's malevolent beings and benevolent beings, but then there's also like, are we trying to put human
Mm,
um, characteristics upon something that may not be necessarily good or bad? People who have, because we're talking about a positive experience with beings, but there are people too who have negative experiences with these things and with the abductions, and people who have negative experiences. It's a lot more scary. It's not positive. They say things like they feel like the beings have no souls, they don't care about them, they have no feelings. So I would be also like, there's also this thought that, maybe they're all our space brothers, but two, we do live in this world of duality, and do we know that they have duality, or are they in this positive, happy, like higher dimension state? We don't know. We
right,
don't
right,
know.
right. And again, just as you're saying, we're over here sticking our knowledge, our limited perspective of what we know from the 3D and even what we imagine from higher dimensions. We're putting our language, our knowledge, our box onto, we're personifying them with what we know as opposed,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, here's what, okay, thanks, Will. He's related to them in a different timeline, even though everything is occurring now. That's cool. Okay. All right. Did you, can you see the messages, Jess?
I do. I see that. So he says timeline. Yes, yes. I do believe that, and I've heard that before. That I even talked about this last night on my show. We're talking about time and how everything exists at the same moment. So if we think about like, okay, everything exists at the same moment, are different pieces of our soul experiencing different things at the same time as we are. So I wonder if
Hmm.
that's kind of where Will is going with that.
Yeah,
And I
I don't
wish he could
know.
answer me.
Hmm. Hmm. I know. That's the whole thing with this live. You've got to have a headset in order to get onto these live calls. Which I learned that
Yeah.
the hard way when I had a guest who didn't have a headset.
I know, that's why I said, "Oh, I." First, I was like, "What's Ellie talking about? I can do this on my computer, right? Like I
With a
normally do." And I'm like, and you're like, "No, you need a headset for your phone." I was like, "Better charge my headset."
Yeah, yeah, and even if you're on your computer, you still need a headset.
Yes. See,
Yeah. All right.
see.
Okay. Getting back to these contacts, if anybody else wants to either call in or share and talk about their experiences, please. Jess knows so much. And can you share a little bit about? Can you really tell us a little bit more about what you know? Maybe even in light of answering William's questions about being related to them and being in this timeline now.
Well, let's see. So lots of you know, I'm kind of on the fence about this whole. I don't know if you've heard of like star seeds, and I'm just very on the
Mm-hmm.
fence about the whole star seed thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Mm-hmm.
Will is talking about makes me think that maybe he's in that realm. It's not something I usually talk about because I have a hard time with it. But star seeds, they're connected to different beings and different area and I guess the different alien races.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought behind that is like you're connected to this race, and they kind of like keep an eye on you, and they kind of pop in to check on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not sure about that. It's true. I've been in this. I have studied this so long that it's like everything I tell you, then I can also say like, okay, but there's also this other theory. Um, what's funny is like Will seems to have a very positive experience, and I it makes me think of another a person that reached out to me, and he had been abducted since he was a child, and
Mm-hmm.
he continuously would have dreams of these beings. But the thing that he said, and I wonder if this is true for Will too, is he said he had this yearning for home, yearning for
Mm-hmm.
his own kind. And
Mm-hmm.
you do hear that a lot from people who have this connection that they want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and and so they yearn for this, and a lot of these people are, that's why they're attracted to these UFO shows. They're trying to find new information. But what's so funny about the field of UFOs is that there's, the camp that is experiencers, that have seen things and experienced, and there's the camp of people who haven't really, people who basically just believe these are nuts and bolts craft coming from somewhere, but they don't know where and they don't know who, but they're like, oh, but they're just physical crafts.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
there's this
Yeah.
big divide in the UFO community, versus people who nuts and bolts craft, governmental sightings versus experiencers, and that's
Mm-hmm.
been a big divide in the community, and it's and I think that's kind of a thing that holds the whole thing back, is that these people do not cross pollinate. They don't talk because they don't like the other
Mm-hmm.
side.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so that's been going on for a long time, because when I first got into this field, the experiencers were more what we were talking to. That's who people wanted to talk to. But back in 2017, when we had the release of all the videos from ATIP and Lou Elizondo, when those came out, then we had this whole new camp of people becoming more vocal. And that's when UFOs kind of went more like, okay, there's nothing magical here. There's nothing, consciousness based. It's literally just a tic tac craft, and there's somebody flying it. So it's been
Mm-hmm.
really interesting to watch this whole thing happen and watch how people have become very militant with their ideals on it. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping as the pendulum swings all the way from super woo to super grounded, that we land somewhere in the middle, and we can combine all these things and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that would be absolutely awesome. So, as you're talking about this, it reminds me of many, many, many years ago. A friend of mine gave me a book called The Starseed Transmissions. I don't know if
Mm,
are you familiar with
I have.
that?
I am not familiar. I may have seen the title.
Yeah, it was written back in 1991 and it's by Ken Carey. It's an old book about, these that coming from that were star seeds. Certain people are star seeds. So the only reason I'm mentioning this is that many years ago, I went to this was interesting. I went to I don't know if she was a massage person. I don't know what she was. Okay. It was one of those energy workers, and she was
Mm-hmm.
doing massage at the same time and then energy work. And then after the massage, said to me, she goes, "Do you know?" And I'm stuttering right now as I'm sharing this. She said to me, "Do you know that you're alien?" And I said,
Oh,
and I laughed. I said, "Well, no, I don't know that I'm an alien." And then she went on to share with me. She said, do you ever have this feeling of wanting to go home? No matter where you are, you always want to go home. Now, the
yes.
reason I mention this is because this has been the constant theme of my life since I was a
Oh,
child. Since I was a child, there's always been this longing to go home. I thought everybody had it, and I thought it was connected to going into the womb, like, oh, let me go home to the
Yes.
womb, to be going back to my mother, kind of like a Freudian thing. But no matter where I would move, I've moved a lot of places in my life looking for quote unquote home, even with my own family, looking for home. And it was
Interesting.
something that I still haven't, I don't know how to describe this other than I'm still searching for this quote unquote emotional kind of home that does not seem to be satisfied or filled with relationship or, material success, if that makes any sense, or friendships, or
Hmm.
even my own. I love my kids like crazy, but there's still
The
this
yearning.
thing about going home. Okay. So, my question is, I wonder if that was, I just scoffed it off when she said that to me. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm alien. All right. Um, so I don't think I'm alien, but maybe I am, and it doesn't matter one way or the other. Um, but it's interesting to have this feeling and to know that there are many people who do have this sort of experience, that they do want to go home. Oh,
Yes.
here, William said he's had
Plenty.
these videos for 5 years. He struggled with how to release them publicly. Today's actually the
No.
anniversary of him
Weird.
recording them. This was the
Oh,
third night. The ships, I believe, are from another dimension. They look like etheric orbs. Okay, awesome. Look, I hate to be a pain in the you know what, but if you could send them to me, I will send them to Jess. And not you send whatever it is that you can. I will guard them on my laptop and
the
not let them disappear into the ethers over here. Or
ethers, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, okay. Um, are you doodling? Are
I'm
you?
not doodle. Yes.
Oh.
I didn't know you could hear it.
Yes. So can everybody else.
Yes. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Um,
We love you. I'm a
I,
doodler also.
I'm
That's cool.
sorry. It helps my brain go sometimes.
Me too.
Um,
I
yeah,
absolutely
okay.
doodle all the time. You got to see my page right now. It is
Yeah,
filled with
mine's
doodles. Yeah, that's so funny that we
yeah.
could hear yours though. That's cool. Keep
Oh,
doodling. It's
fun.
all right.
Okay, I'm
Um,
sorry, everybody. I didn't know you guys could hear it. Um,
I don't know if they, well, maybe they can't. I don't know. I can. All right, but listen, Will, if you can send over that footage, I'm going to send it to Jess, and we'll take it from there and see. Does anybody else have? Jess, have you had personal experience with aliens?
This is why I have a very hard time with the title or people saying that I'm a UFO specialist, a researcher, a ufologist, because I do not have any experience, nothing significant, not like, what other people have had. I've only seen lights in the sky. I've never I you know, and I've always been fascinated and wanted to see a craft. But I got to this point, Ellie, that I started thinking about vibration, and I had a guest kind of talk about this, and it kind of stuck with me. It's like maybe I'm just not of whatever vibration or frequency it is to see or experience these things. And I've kind of, come to the realization that I'm probably not going to have an experience at this point.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
probably just not for me. It's something I enjoy to talk about, but it's not something that I've experienced. So I have a really hard time with it because I feel like if you really want to help people and talk about it, it's somebody who has an experience. That's why I'm like a reluctant UFO person.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
No experiences. Plenty of other, like, types of experiences with energy and stuff, but like with this ET realm or
Hmm.
that dimensional realm,
Hmm.
it doesn't happen for me
Yeah, yet. I'm going to add in there yet. Okay.
yet.
Yet. And I don't, this is just me sticking my 2 cents in here. I don't think that matters. I think you can still be a UFO specialist and not have seen any aliens. I've never seen an alien. I don't know what
Me
that is.
too.
I'm not. And the only time I've ever seen anything alien like has been in a reading that I've done for somebody else. And
Oh,
again, these are things that I question, because I've got this skeptical part of me and an analytical
Me too.
part, and so there are times where I'm doing readings and I'll see the image of Mother Mary, or I'll see Jesus, or I'll see, and then I makes me wonder if I'm just like tapping into their particular frequency of what their belief system is, and therefore I can
Mm.
see what they're seeing. And then I've seen aliens in readings, but then again, I find out after I'm doing, like, during the reading, then I find out that this particular person is connected to aliens and has, seen aliens and communicates with aliens. And is that the reason why, I'm seeing the aliens? Am I just
Mm.
tapping into their psyche? Am I don't, I don't have an answer for that. So I usually think that's the answer I give myself. But the point of this whole thing is that the woman who I was doing the reading for was very, very sick. And even though I do
Oh.
not do medical advice, I don't do anything medical, these aliens came through and told me to share with her. Okay, it's like, hello, really? Share with her that she could create, and I'm going to share it with everybody because I think it's really cool, to create an elixir in her mind of taking blue cobalt light and white light and seeing if she could blend it together almost as if in a coil, like in a DNA kind of shape, or whatever that thing's called right now, and to run that blue and white through her body as healing
Wow.
energy. And so I shared that. I don't know what happened with her after that, but I thought about that many times when I had not felt well. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run this blue white elixir through my body, starting from my head, going all the way into every single limb, and like blood running through, to see that run
Mm.
through. So if anybody else
It's
feels
interesting.
unwell, give it a whirl, give it a try, see if it works for you. I mean, this came through in a reading. So, again, for her specifically, but I think it's just such a cool thing to be sharing anyway, anything that helps us feel better. So,
No, that's really interesting. Who did I speak to? I spoke to if Dr. Joseph Burks few years ago, and he has, I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure people can look it up if they're interested. And it's a whole book about medical healings with ETs
hmm,
and all
fascinating.
these cases and stuff. So it's Dr. Joseph Burke. It was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, but I can't remember the name of it. But if you guys want to look it up, if you're interested in that kind of
Hmm.
information.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of a non. I don't know if I could. I don't know if you want me to continue or not.
Go ahead,
No,
talk.
I was.
Your stories. I love
I had
stories. We love stories.
no. What's interesting is you talk about healing, and this isn't like a UFO one, but one day, because I've got an autoimmune thing, I've got a pancreas problem, so I'm sick sometimes. And
Hmm.
one night, I wasn't feeling well after dinner, and I went to lay down after. And I closed my eyes, and I kind of go into meditation to kind of try to feel better. And I see this vision when I'm meditating of this beautiful, like, colored, lion-headed woman come in and just like kind of give me healing. And so I look it up later once I come out of the meditation and I feel a little better. And I look up a female lion-headed deity, and it's Sekhmet, which is a goddess of healing, which I have no
Mm.
knowledge of any Egyptian stuff at all.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
for
Not in.
her to come to
Uh-huh.
me was very, very strange. Like, those are the types of experiences I have.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh, those are so cool. Hmm.
Yes. So I thought that was interesting and kind of related. Sorry, not trying not to go too tangenty.
Oh, no, no, this is cool because this is what we're all about. I mean, having these experiences, listening to the messages that come through at night or come through in meditations, following through with them, because these are the keys, like the keys to the kingdom. These are the keys to get into our consciousness, to find out what the world, what our,
Yes.
what this 3D and more is really all about. So it's like that's
Yes.
why I love the name of your show also, Escape the
Thank you.
Simulation. You're just like so stuck in this third dimensional reality that we cannot allow ourselves, or we don't give ourselves permission to see all the other amazing things that are just
Yes.
within our realm and in our frequency if we only allow ourselves to see and experience them.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that 100%. 100%. That's why I love, shows like yours, shows like mine. We're able to sit down and, like, talk about these topics and kind of get into them. And, I think every conversation helps people a little more to escape and, be aware of the different realms. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's like part of my mission, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Just have people become more, in my view, have people realize that there is just so much more than
So
what is in
much.
front of your eyes. Okay. This is just an illusion. And, grab your Moses staff, grab your magic wand staff, and go make magic on this planet, whatever that looks like for anybody.
Yes. Because, as bad as things seem, you know, humans have always triumphed at the end, you know.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
at least now in modern times, I guess, because they say civilization rose and fell many times before.
Right.
But,
And,
life is beautiful and there is darkness in it. But, if we can be positive, and I'm not talking about being all rainbows and sunshines all the time, but realizing that, it's not that ugly. And I know sometimes people get sad.
hmm.
The world is
Hmm.
beautiful and the world is magical and we can
It is.
connect to each other. I
It
mean, that
is.
to me is our ability to connect consciously to one another amazes me more than anything, any
Hmm.
topic. The
Hmm.
abilities that we have as humans.
Absolutely. This is what I got to do a tangent promo right here. This is what
Please.
my work is all about, even in my Side Kids Academy for adults and children, is to tap into this, to be able to recognize and see that this is all an illusion and that we can create whatever it is that we want. We have this telepathic, telekinetic,
Yes.
magnificent force within us to create what we want. And if we could only teach people to tap into this more often and not be blindsided by this limited possibility, like, oh, I can't see it. Well, duh, you haven't looked really. But anyway, my point is that if we can tap into this and start accessing it and talking about it the way that we talk about the weather, that's where we're going to start making substantial changes in the lives of everybody that we're listening to, that's listening here, everybody else have a better life than
Yeah.
what's often in front of us in 3D. Okay. So,
Yes.
mm.
Here, here. I agree with that.
All right, girlfriend.
Mm.
We're going to wrap up now. I am so happy and grateful that you are here
Oh,
today. I
thank
want everyone to go find you. It is escapethesimulation.info. Jess, JessRogge, Jess
you.
Rogue,
Yes.
Rogie, and the Rogie
Yep.
Report. I will
Yes.
put all the links. Go find Jess, connect with her, listen to her show. She's lovely. As you can hear,
Oh,
you're
thank you.
lovely. You're awesome. I want
Oh,
everyone
thank
to
you.
love
You're
on you
awesome.
the way I'm loving on you.
Oh, thank you so
All
much,
right.
Ellie. This has been an absolute pleasure. I just had a wonderful time. I am still tired, but you know what? It was totally worth it and I loved it. I had an amazing time. Thank you
No,
so
thank you
much.
so much for being here. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. William sent us those videos, please. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you for everyone who's on the podcast listening now and in the future. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be well. Bye.
Bye. Bye.